existed like 20 billion jillion years ago.
Dude, let's shoot Daniel.
Ooh. Chicken.
Ah, that's Andrew's.
Pew. Nope. Jeez, this thing would probably kill someone.
You should have seen Andrew's sniper gun.
Oh yeah.
He made it himself,
Yeah.
completely out of metal. Dude, that thing hit somebody and they got a bruise and started to bleed.
Boom.
Michael, watch this. We gotta do shotgun round. Ready?
Ooh. And it's actually like a shotgun. The pellets were everywhere. They like fills the entire thing up. No matter how hard you try to miss, you will probably hit.
That was one too many.
Just like you take the thing they're shooting bolts at you. Oh, I was like, where did that go?
Ooh. Watch this, right?
E. Wow. Wait, where did that go? What the nugget? I feel like those people at what's it called? Hula's.
Found all three right here.
Scrape the land eagles into the. They're just like, oh, quick and speed. Then it goes into your bowl. I don't even know how to use that thing.
Good.
They're like, I would advise you to wear as much protection as you can.
Dude, check out this stuff. These are the ones that Andrew was shooting out of his sniper gun.
What the heck?
Dude, they hurt so bad.
He literally just cut these.
No, he actually made those himself. I just need one
They have
more.
like the end is like so rubbery. Like, it's hard.
I just need one more rifle dart. Yes. Found it. Dude, it's 5 minutes past 9. Here, watch this. Ready? You just shoot the shelf.
Hello. I think you have me at a disadvantage.
Yeah.
You've caught me unawares.
You knew we were here.
Well, yes. I assumed Michael was, and I saw you earlier.
I've
What did you see?
I was up here before
Last
him.
night?
Oh, was that last night? I thought I
Yeah.
saw you by the door, but I guess that was last night, huh? My bad. Well, I saw your dad here, so I kind of figured.
Sweet, it's like 5 minutes past midnight.
Yeah, a little
Doesn't
early.
really matter.
I just talk to people, you know, like humans do.
Dude, check out all rival dart.
I have 4
Very funny.
Push up the top cam.
That's a pretty good little hiding place.
And I
What would
buy
you like to play?
a frappuccino.
Frappuccinos are bad for you.
And, well, guess what? I'm bad for myself.
Oh,
So,
well.
I bet you are.
yes.
I don't know if we have frappuccinos. I think that's on our list of go-gets, and then we were gonna go to Costco today, and we saw a video of people at Costco, and we're like, yeah, I'm not going to Costco.
Oh, okay.
Dude, I was waiting home yesterday, my dad took a picture of Winco, and literally there's nothing. All the shelves
All the
were
shelves are
clear.
just cleared. Oh my gosh, that's insanity. People are gonna start trying to figure out when the shipments come in. It's gonna be like that now. Hope you're covered your stock. It's gonna be an interesting time.
I'll get a Sprite, and then here's 3 other dollars.
Okay, sorry, what was that one for?
A Sprite.
Okay.
Man, I'm rich.
No, you aren't.
See this?
Just rolling in them sugars.
About an inch of.
I got inches of money.
Yeah, that's
Should be
pencil.
Did you jam that? It's like the unjammable gun. How did you even manage that?
I can put it in.
The screwdriver usually works better because you can actually like twist the tips and do
Got it.
different things. Really? Wow. Okay. Alright. Sorry, you were saying the $3 was for.
2 Kit Kat and Hershey's. Kit Kat's
Please don't
available.
die or vomit.
I love
Or
Donald's
vomit and
Trump.
die.
Trust me. I won't.
Dude,
There was so much ferocity and so little outcome. It's kind of like giving a 3-year-old a pool noodle.
Shoots himself in the what comes out right now.
it's jammed. There we go. Is that duct tape?
No, it is captain tape.
Oh. Well, I was gonna say we could hog tie Michael.
It would be exceptionally good at it, but it's also very expensive tape.
Yeah, I'll sound pretty fast. I don't think that will fit around.
That's a very gross
just think
overestimation of
that's
how
enough.
fat you are. I don't think anyone is that fat. This is like
that
a
could fit around
this is like a
4
75-yard roll of tape.
Oh.
This is like house circumference of tape. No one is that fat.
Yeah, that could probably go like.
Probably the fattest man in the world could still be circumference fat. Maybe not hog tie. I'll give you that. Maybe I couldn't hog tie the fattest man in the world.
Yeah, because hog tying is somebody's down like this, and then like that, and you're
Actually, a
tying
good question is,
their legs
can
in.
the fattest man in the world be hog tied?
Yeah, because
Can his arms reach his ankles?
Probably not.
Probably not.
Hey, Michael, I've got an
You
idea.
probably have to like wad his back fat and roll it up to make his ankles reach his hands. Compress it like a sleeping bag. Get some tie-down straps. Oh yeah.
Actually, you just
That's a
reminded me.
great mental image you're never gonna forget.
Or you can just go.
Where are you gonna put this one?
On in between the mirrors in the bathroom. So one's still on the side, the door one.
There's like billions of darts just sitting there, waiting to get used, and no one will use them. How does that do different shit?
Do you need help?
Do you have like a third, like,
Tweezers or pliers?
what pliers?
Probably not here. I think most of my tools of that variety are at home. If you don't mind losing a round to fix the gun, you could use scissors, and it would destroy that one round, but you'd probably be able to use it like pliers if you only cut halfway into it. Might actually still be good. Dull scissors, man. So what is the jam exactly?
Well, I had,
Is it just overloaded?
yeah. Did you see it? There's supposed to be some space in there, and
No,
then.
I can usually load one more round past that point before it jams. Not two, but one more. Hey! Did you know they made a pistol off that design?
Yeah.
It's brand new. It holds 15 rounds. It's got when you slide the thing back, it's on the bottom right here, and then you flip the gun upside down, and there's 5 chambers you load, but each chamber only holds 3 rounds. So it's kind of tedious, but the beautiful thing is because it uses the rotating carousel. Once there's a round in the chamber, the gun is fully operational even as you're loading.
Oh, that's cool.
So you can actually, cock the gun back. It'll load one into the chamber, and then you can open the gun and start loading it while it's firing. And if you need to fire while you're loading, you can. It's pretty sweet. It is, however, a not great design on the pullback, and so I think they're probably going to have to make like a version 2 of it. One YouTuber I watch who reviews Nerf guns, it's kind of like all he does. He got 3 of them because he thought they were so cool, and one of them works flawlessly, one of them jammed, and he's able to fix it by, after trying to cock it, he turns around and bashes it back into position on a flat surface. And the third one jammed, he did that and immediately permanently broke. And like, not in a I snapped the plastic sort of way, but in like a one-way gear and a different one-way gear are now both aligned such that like, it can't go this way, it can't go that way.
Oof.
It's like you have to take apart the entire gun and completely reset all the gears inside. So, like, not the best gun design. It's supposed to just have a backslide like a pistol, and on the back draw, it loads the carousel forward one as it pulls back the fire spring, and then as you push it forward, it closes the breech. And so if you can't close it, if you can't push forward, the breech never shuts. So if you fire the gun, it will 50% push air out the front and 50% just release air into the gun. So like,
Michael.
if you don't fix it, it really is broken. It really doesn't actually fire.
Nice thing about those rival darts is you can throw them at people, and they actually work.
That is true. It's really hard to throw a Nerf dart in comparison to a rival round.
Yeah.
I have a friend that can literally throw Nerf darts as fast as he can shoot, except for that one gun.
The top end one.
Wanna know why duck hunters and golfers make such great friends?
Why is that?
Because the golfers can practice golfing when they all the way up there, and the duck hunters can shoot the golf ball.
Just gotta be really careful not to pull the trigger too soon.
Then we shoot somebody's foot.
Yes. That would be unreal. Alright, curious person that I am. I know I have Weston now in my junior high contacts list. Yeah.
So what, you just go try to call me?
No. I was just gonna look and see if I have Michael in there.
Nope.
I might, because he went to camp, but I don't know.
I think that camp was like one of the first times I met Michael.
Yep.
And then at camp I really
The new screen.
Really extra. Can I wear this hat? Actually, no, it might have the
When
crocodile.
You
I
might have the
said I
crocodile
was like
tattoo.
seeing dogs and stuff, because it was like really late. And then we stayed up talking about really weird stuff. But at least we stayed up.
That is the primary thing you should do at camp, is stay up talking about weird stuff, in my opinion. My humble opinion.
I bet there probably was like one other cabin that was still up at that time. That camp was better than the one that I went to 2 or 3 years ago. The one I went to like 2 or 3 years ago didn't have like actual beds. We had to bring sleeping bags and lay on springs. That was about it. The rest was okay. The food was pretty good. I thought church would be canceled, cause a lot of other churches were canceled.
Yep.
Because of the coronavirus.
Lot of churches.
Yeah.
It's pretty simple, we trust you guys. If you're not sick, you can come to church. If you're sick, you should stay home. It's pretty straightforward.
But they even said like the coronavirus, the symptoms don't show up like 5 to 14 days after.
That's ridiculous, then there's nothing you can do. Cause you can't send everyone home for a week, people have done the math. There is no actual way for the world to continue working if you sent home everybody for a week. There's too many people that would starve, there's too many people that would die without care. Like, you can't do it. So essentially, if that's what it comes down to, if you don't know you have it for 2 straight weeks, you just have to let the world run and everybody gets sick and gets over it and we all do what we need to do. There's no way to send everyone home for 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you couldn't do it.
What's it called? There's someone in Reading, and the thing is, she has coronavirus, and she was on TikTok posting about, like, how she got it, and how, like, she went to China.
She went to China?
Before coronavirus was a thing.
Okay.
And then, once she got there, like, 2 days after, she, didn't have the symptoms, but came back and started having the symptoms, and then she had coronavirus. And she lives in Reading, and she posted on TikTok, like, that she was, at, one of the, hospitals in Reading. And I was like, no way, you live like 2 hours away from me, what the heck?
Yeah. No, Reading had that person, they were all over the news. Okay, so I have you in here, Michael Wright. I have your primary contact as Linda Shouts. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay. And then I've got 2 emails. One is Linda Shouts, one is B Shouts.
Bobby Shots is my grandpa.
Oh, okay. So those are both good. Cool. And then her number is 646-6633.
Yep.
I also have on your profile 646-6596.
Yep, that's my grandpa.
That's your grandpa, okay. So I'm gonna just label those, find out who the heck I would be contacting if I contacted one of those names.
There's just like a guy with like 3.49 million subscribers on YouTube, and I've been with him before he had 1 million at 500,000, and he and one of his friends and like this like organization that they're in were having a race who could get first to 1 million, and his friend got first to 1 million, but he got first to 3 million, and his friend is still at 1 million. 1 million short of that.
Okay, so let me add your grandpa on here.
And I wanna just chug this, eat a banana at the same time.
Does he go by Bobby, you said?
Yeah.
Just like
B-O-B-B-Y?
Yeah. You know, if you
Oh,
chug.
there he is. Bobby Shouts. He's actually in here.
If you chug,
He just wasn't attached to you.
Sprite or 7-Up while eating a banana, I'm
sounds very bad to me. I would not want that.
So, no worship today?
Apparently. So here's the
Yeah,
spill.
I know.
Oh, you already know.
Lexi's doing it, and Maine with Cody, and Elise was supposed to do it, but she's feeling sick.
Oh, how'd you know?
Coronavirus.
I was gonna do it with Lexi, and then she did it downstairs, so she told me last night.
Got it. Yeah, she didn't tell me. I found out when Elise said she couldn't lead worship, and Elise is our backup. And so typically Elise only leads on communion Sundays, because Lexi always leads downstairs on communion Sundays. And so then when Elise said she couldn't make it, I was like, oh, I guess that means Lexi asked her to do it. And then Natalie is actually gonna take the month off. Her and Skylar are just like, we don't wanna do public gatherings for a month. It's too stressful to think about washing your hands every 20 seconds and wondering if that coughing person's gonna make me die, or just like, I'm out. Not doing it.
I honestly am not scared at all about those.
So.
Oh my gosh, no, like, okay, so my wife has looked at the stats, cause we have
We're not
kids.
successful.
We're worried about our kids. So she looks it up. How many thousands in China got coronavirus?
Like 80,000, but there's
How many were infants?
Huh?
How many were infants?
Probably like 5.
7.
It's like 8.
Typically, any disease that affects the elderly, more than younger healthy people, also affects infants more than the healthy older, like middle-aged people. But for some reason, this one doesn't. This one does not seem to affect infants near as much as it should. Usually, it's like being an infant is half as bad as being old, and definitely much worse than being like our age. But for some reason, this one's not. So I think it's probably gonna be like, the sad truth is probably like we're all gonna get it to some mild degree at some point, and then it'll be like, wow, that wasn't so bad. And really the problem is, all of us normal aged, healthy people are gonna have it and just be like, this isn't so bad, and then we get a few of the old people sick, and the old people will die. It's like, if you have bad lungs, if you smoked during your life, then you actually have a chance of like you doing something bad to you. But so far that's like all the people who've died are people who had lung problems going in.
I honestly don't get why people are buying toilet paper, because the last thing I remember toilet paper being for was wiping off the toilet and wiping it.
I think it's because of what he was saying about Winco. You go to Winco and the shelves are empty. It's not that I need more food when coronavirus hits, it's that I won't be able to buy food. So I think the toilet paper thing was before anyone thought of anything running out and then being scared they would be able to buy it, they thought toilet paper would be not viable and they were scared. I think in our modern society, no one knows how to live without toilet paper. They just don't know. And everyone who owns a
Paper
bidet,
towels,
everyone who owns
socks.
a bidet is like, I win. All the bidet owners are like,
There was this guy and
you
he was like,
guys are gonna die.
he was like, here's how you only use one piece of toilet paper per day. And so you have
One like
entire
roll or one strip?
one strip.
I think he means like one tile, one square.
One tile of, he said, make a hole in the middle and then put a spoon in the middle and you scrape and then wipe and then you throw it in. He's not wrong either.
Oh my gosh. Oh, that's too much. Oh my gosh.
He's like, how to make one roll of toilet paper last a week.
Well, how many squares are in one roll?
I mean, maybe on the biggest ones you could get like 200 and something. I don't think there's only 300 and something. I don't know if that would fit up against the wall on like a normal holder. Maybe there's 300 and something on like the, maybe like single ply.
There should be like a challenge. I can run down to the janitor's closet and get one roll of toilet paper and we can come up and start counting.
That's a good use of toilet paper.
Oh, it is, cause then we can roll.
Yeah, we can roll.
It'll definitely roll up as tight, just as tight as the original roll.
Have
And
it,
certainly
have it,
won't wobble left and right a little bit as we
have
roll
it right at the beginning like this big and at the end like.
Just take like the
Yeah, our toilet paper rolls here aren't toilet paper rolls. Our toilet paper rolls here at these ones already.
They're gonna be like,
Oh yeah.
oh, you
It's
know.
really fun to unroll things that are like a ton of something rolled up. one time we did for fun audio cassette. Because we used to have down here the media booth, we still sometimes slightly call it a tape booth. That is because before we had CDs duplicated there, we duplicated audio tapes, the little cassette
yeah.
tapes.
Mm-hmm.
So when we got done with doing that and like cassette tapes weren't really a thing, people stopped asking for them, we had a bunch of blank cassette tapes lying around. So we decided to take one apart and pull the tape out. And we thought it'd be like a tape measure, 30 feet, 50 feet, maybe like 100 tops. So bloody long. It blew our minds.
How long?
So I stood at the alarm panel in the bookstore, like right as you come in the door,
Yeah.
turn off the alarm. I stood there, and Barrett ran it out, and then I ran it out too to see, because I thought he was lying. He ran all the way through the lobby, to the hallway, down the hallway, out the door, to the fence, stuck it on a fence nail, ran back, and got to the janitor's closet. And like he was standing there by the janitor's closet shouting to me, and I'm over by the alarm panel. He's saying like, "Huh, I reached over here," and I thought it reached from the lobby to the janitor's closet. That's what I thought the end of it was.
So you thought?
I was like, okay, yeah, it was like 100 feet is exactly what I expected. And he was like hysterically laughing, just dying laughing, because he thought there's no way this is possible, but it just kept coming out. And I go over to him, and I realize the tape goes past him and comes back to him. He's like, "Where did you go?" And I see it goes to the door, because like the door's shut. And he's like, he can't even like tell me where. He's like, "The fence." Like, what? And so I think it just goes to the door. So I run over to the door and I knock over the door, and I'm like, and I can see it, this faint little line going all the way out to the fence and all the way back again. What?
So how long was it?
I don't know what length that is. We've never measured it. We could probably Google Earth it pretty easily. But like, it's because the tape is so ridiculously thin that every time you roll it, it doesn't move the roll size much. The roll doesn't actually increase much because it's so thin. The other thing you could do is probably just Google how long is a 90-minute audio cassette or 120 or whatever those big long ones were.
If it's like that thin and it's like
I think it's
that
thinner than
thick,
hair.
It's like that thick, that shows that there's probably
Like a lot of revolutions. I'm curious now what the long audio cassette minute length even was. I don't even remember that stat anymore. It's been so long since audio cassettes were like a thing.
before. At least it sounds like it.
Well, we did it a long time after they were like popular, because in older cars, cassette player in the dash was like a built-in.
Yeah.
You didn't pay extra feature for decades. It was just built in. So like even after cassettes couldn't be bought at the store as like the latest album, we were already onto iTunes for albums and whatever. But we were still making audio cassettes because you could still walk out to your car and just slot the tape in. So it was like convenient for most people, and eventually a lot of those cars started dying, and it was more and more people had CD players for free in their car, standard feature.
So it's about 1,000 feet
Really?
on Google Earth.
Oh man, that is insane.
But that's just a rough estimate.
Yeah. I mean, you don't get to see inside the building, so.
Yeah.
Okay, so if I look up cassette tape on Wiki.
We should just like grab tape measures and then just like measure the entire thing and add up all the tape measures.
Or we can just take like a giant roll of string, just run it, and then just get one of those like string counters where you just pull it through and it counts
Oh,
the
yeah.
string.
Oh
So you can
yeah.
just pull it straight through.
I forget those things are a real thing.
Yeah.
Like the string
And we can just have it
measure.
right there by the alarm, push it through, and then just run all the way out to the fence and back. And then when we make it to the janitor's closet, leave it there, go back, check the number. I mean, we might run out of string, so we might need to tie like 2 more rolls of strings on there. But 1, 2, 3. Why are there like? How many of those signs have you print out?
Like a bunch.
1, 2, 3.
It's just in this room.
4 just in.
There's a bunch downstairs. There's 2 in the hall. There's 2 in each bathroom.
The one in the bathroom.
Oh, there you go. Okay. So apparently, for the 120-minute ones, it's 584 feet. That's still really impressive when you think about a tape measure. Like a tape measure is this big, and it's like 30 to 50 feet. And an audio cassette is not only like a little bit smaller, but the actual circle is much smaller.
Yeah, so it's only like
An actual circle is only about that big.
So it's only like 2 of these.
Well, no, because it all rewinds onto one side. And it, you know what I mean? They, what do you call it? They trade size. So like this spool can hold 584 feet. That's really impressive.
Yeah, but remember the tape measures are bent, so really it's like.
Yeah, but they bend into each other. You know, like one is
Yeah.
bent this way, the next one's bent the same way. So they kind of like
Yeah.
they spoon.
But still, the last one is that much more.
Sure, yeah.
So really.
And definitely the metal's thicker. You can tell by just you look
Yeah.
at it, it's thicker.
So
It's an impressive amount of difference.
basically, if you had.
Michael,
Hey, yo, it's your boy, Big Chungus.
apparently I left on the amp on you.
No, he turned it
on.
on.
So loud, so I turn it off and turn it back on.
Oh,
and
really?
it stopped buzzing.
Yeah, I've never intentionally left it on that long, so I didn't know what it was doing.
Like another Minecraft video,
Well, I guess we should probably study our Bible some.
maybe.
Oh, I'm gonna go clean up those darts. So,
Also, one
since
time my
it's.
grandma tells me no phone, we have no one in here other than him.
So, Weston, you were there on Friday.
Yeah.
I got a report via the website, because I guess they didn't know my email or whatever, from one of the students that said they witnessed some bullying that night, and I totally didn't see a thing. I trust them. They're not like pointing the finger at someone they hate or something. They're not like, you know, throwing shade as far as I can tell. But they were saying that someone was bullying Landon. And they didn't know the
Yeah.
person's name, and they just like visually described them, and so I'm kind of lost. Like I don't actually know
Yeah.
for certain who they were talking about.
He was in the bathroom for like half an hour, just in there.
Landon was, or
Yeah, Landon.
okay.
And I didn't know what was wrong with him. And they were all like, Landon's just gonna be in the bathroom. And I was like, I stuck my head in there. I was all like, Landon, what's up? And he's like, I don't want to talk about it. Go away. I
Okay,
was
so
like,
you kind of saw after whatever happened
Yeah.
happened.
Yeah, but I didn't know.
You didn't see what happened. Okay, I'm just curious. I'm trying to put the pieces together and figure out who I need to talk to, because like, I trust the report. It doesn't sound over the top. You know, it doesn't sound
Yeah.
like a lie. But I don't know who they're talking about. I don't know who was the bully. So I gotta keep doing my detective work and figure out which kid was this. It might have just been the new guy,
Yeah.
and I don't want to like automatically assume it's the new guy.
Yeah.
But I'd like to think that most of the guys I know wouldn't have
Yeah.
done what was said.
Yeah, like. I know some
And
kids.
like not everybody gets autism, but I feel like in today's day and age, most kids have had some experience with another kid who's autistic. I feel like it'd be hard to find someone who's never had any experience with a kid with autism. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he just really doesn't understand it. But that's what it seems like. It seems like Landon's autism was like a shock and a
Yeah.
like a new thing. And so he treated Landon kind of with the expectation of someone who doesn't have autism. And so he was just crude and rude and name called because he thought, I don't know, he thought Landon shouldn't act that way.
Yeah, some people just.
And like sometimes Landon acts out, but it's never in some huge way. We've had other kids with autism where like the act out was much bigger and more of a problem. And Landon's is typically just quirks.
Yeah.
He's not usually like a big problem in any way. So I don't know what set the other kid off, but like the way the report says he treated Landon was just terrible.
Trick shot. I don't know who would treat a kid like that.
It was pretty bad. Just a lot of name calling and like just really crass speech.
Watch
too.
this, ready? Watch this, ready? Trick shot.
Ah! I hate when I do that. I get so focused. Oh! I thought you had it. Oh, yeah. It's hard to get out of the corner back into a corner. That's a really tough shot. Oh,
Oh, I keep on doing that.
I should just spin this and then you like hit a ball.
Hey! Little side influence from the purple. Very nice.
Oh!
We sound hilarious, by the way.
Especially because there's
Yeah.
imagine you got all of them.
Wait, hold on. Leave there. Not done yet.
Alright, guys. Find a seat, find a Bible,
Wait,
pour some rubbing alcohol
Oh!
on it.
I made it again. I love pool. Oh, so Daniel.
Yeah.
You know how you were saying that the
What's all?
longest like long jump
Yeah,
ever
yeah,
recorded
yeah.
was like 32 something?
I don't remember now, but yeah.
My longest is like 17.
It's
feet.
impressive. Long jump freaks me out because like I can run and jump and that feels normal. But if I gauge anything and like think in my head, can I like jump over that?
Yeah.
It's not much bigger than this rug that in my head I think I can pull off at my best. And then I hear the numbers, like 17 feet or 30 something feet, and my brain just goes,
What?
nope, that's comic books. That's not, that's not real life.
Yeah, but
But I've seen people do it. Like I've watched the Olympics. I've watched people do it. You know, even at high schools. But it just sounds wrong. Like
yeah.
no, human legs don't go that way.
Yeah, you just gotta figure it out because if you've done it enough, you know where the mark is
Yeah.
to jump from. So you don't even look at it. You just are looking up, and you know when to jump.
It's just like flying.
Yeah. But you gotta get that speed down because when you start, you're only like this, and then you slowly speed up as you get closer. And then like 10 feet from the mark, you just go
You
full
need to have
speed.
that full burst
And
right
but
at the
then
right
you
moment.
also have to have that jump thing.
It's insanity. Okay, topic nights are fantastic. I'm not sure what will happen now that everyone's all spooked on Corona. So we'll see. We'll see if everyone comes together and eats food together. I'm gonna still try. Until the elders say we're closed, I'm just gonna pretend like nothing's going on. We'll be extra vigilant. We'll wash our hands, but like I'm not gonna change anything.
I'm super sorry, but I'm gonna miss the last one because I'm going turkey hunting.
Of course.
It's opening day.
I know. I didn't think about that at the time because I don't hunt, but I got told, and I was like, oh dang it. Someone told me it was turkey season.
That
and I
was
was
me.
like,
I told you that.
no. At a pastor's meeting, Bud
Oh.
mentioned it. We were gonna do a barbecue that Sunday, or a bake sale or something, and
Well, it was probably Pastor Bud and a few other guys, because a lot of the safety team guys.
yeah, no, it was Pastor Bud. That's what I said. Pastor Bud told me it was turkey season. I was like, ah, dang it. So, anyways, I'm sorry you won't be there. I will stick it on YouTube. There will be parts where we're talking about sex at the end, and I won't stick that part on YouTube just in case someone has like a real personal question. But the rest of it will be on YouTube at least. The dating part.
What happens if like, can I bring in like a turkey that I shot and you can cook it for me in here?
During our topic night,
Yes.
you bring a dead turkey into this building.
Well, it might be more than
As a
one.
general rule of thumb, if you insert any dead animal into that sentence, I'll still say no. Doesn't matter which one it is.
A dead doll.
Most
That's not an animal.
most
Fully cooked? That's
birds-
different. That's different. Fully cooked is different. I'll take a fully cooked animal anytime. Not fully cooked? Too gross. Sorry.
What if it's like a steak that has some red
See, that's not an animal. That's a cut of meat. That has
It's a
been
cut
butchered.
of an
It is finished being butchered. That is completely
So
different.
what if I have like a chicken, but I
Well,
didn't cook
and
the
still,
legs?
even then, technically, this isn't a food preparation facility. We're not licensed to take raw meat and cook it. That's why when we do a barbecue, it's outside. So, like, technically,
Actually-
if you brought me a steak, I would say thank you, and then I'd take it home. Like, I'm not supposed to actually cook a raw piece of meat here. Isn't that
Well,
weird?
What about
There's
bacon?
rules about that kind of stuff.
Bacon. You've cooked bacon here.
That's not raw. That's fully cooked meat.
No, it's here.
It is. I buy fully cooked bacon, and that is why I can microwave it.
That is. Why would
You could technically eat it out of the package and it'd be safe. It wouldn't taste good. It'd be greasy as snot, but like,
That's creepy.
but it's at least sanitary.
That's creepy.
No
What
one wants to
chapter
eat that.
are we
Okay. Today we have a really fun chapter. Super crazy weird. I've reminded you guys about topic nights enough. You probably know them all by heart now. But
Not
there
really.
they are. This Friday, mac and cheese.
Can we still have donuts again?
I'm not against anyone bringing donuts. Anyone can bring donuts to any of these nights. I'd be happy to have donuts here. But
Can we
I'm
have,
not going to
like-
go buy donuts.
Not unless they're fully cooked.
Unless they're fully cooked. Must be a fully cooked donut. I actually agree. I don't want a half-cooked donut. That's weird. It'd be nasty.
Half washed.
Ooh.
Have you always seen those ads? Like, you don't want half washed. Like, where it's like, instead of a V-neck, like it's a U-neck. And
What
they're,
does half-washed mean?
like, your shirt is half washed.
What does that even mean?
It's not washed completely.
Why is that a commercial? I don't get it.
I don't know, it's like some Downy commercial or something like that. It's
Okay,
like, you don't want
forget
half
Downy.
washed.
Let's read the Bible.
Okay, hold on.
Yeah.
So I just read the first sentence,
Okay. Uh-huh.
and it was super weird because it said,
Why don't you just
Right.
read it out loud, and
Right.
then we'll talk about it, because that's what we're supposed to do.
okay, when Rachel saw that she wasn't having any children for Jacob, she became jealous of her sister. She pleaded with Jacob, "Give me children or I'll die."
Nay.
But what was weird to me was when it said she became jealous of her sister, I thought it said she became jealous of Jacob's sister. So I was all like, wait, why would Jacob be having children with his sister?
Jealous.
Why would Jacob be having children with his sister if he doesn't
Half-washed.
have a sister?
Yeah, if he doesn't have a sister, that's even weirder. Weirdness upon weirdness. Yeah, no. She married the same guy as her sister
Yeah, I know.
due to the strange events of last week.
I can't wait to get home and be cracked on Fortnite. No, I play more GTA than Fortnite.
Michael, your brain. I don't know how, but it manages to go in the wrong direction all the time.
Yep.
All the time.
I honestly think I have ADHD.
No, I don't doubt that. I'm like fully embracing the fact that you have ADHD, but most people don't seem to come up with the unique things that your mind does. So you're not just distractible, like you're inventive.
Yes.
So, and this is the problem of any good inventor, staying on the invention long enough to actually make something happen.
Mm-hmm.
Also knowing which ideas are good ideas. That's another problem. But
Yeah.
work on those and you'll be fine. You've got verse 2.
Okay. Then Jacob became furious with Rachel. Am I God, he asked. He's the only one who has kept me from having children.
So real simple, she says, "Give me children" to Jacob, and Jacob doesn't have that ability. They've obviously been trying, and yet she's not pregnant. Her sister's been through how many kids now? 5? So like some time has gone on since the wedding day. You know, they've had 5 kids. You can't have them, I mean, unless there's twins and triplets, right? You can't have 5 kids in less than 5 times 10 months. You know, it takes 50 months to go through 5 kids. So like, that's over 4 years at the very, very, very least. Does that make sense?
What if she
Has triplets.
was
She didn't have triplets, so it told us.
What if she was already pregnant and then
No.
she got pregnant again?
No. You can't get pregnant while you're pregnant. I looked into that. I was curious.
You can't multiply 2 times pregnancy.
Well, so because like I was thinking, since you can have paternal twins, right? So like essentially 2 eggs fertilized at once.
Yep.
I was thinking, could the female reproductive system somehow, by like a total fluke, like obviously not normally, but like a total fluke, create an egg while you're pregnant? And the answer is no. And on top of that, even if there was one hanging out since before that lady got pregnant, there wouldn't be any way for it to get fertilized. Things close up in different ways when you get pregnant. So, yeah, I was curious. And scientifically, as far as we know, no. You're not going to get pregnant while you're
Well,
pregnant.
what if 2 eggs get fertilized at the same time?
Then it's just twins.
I thought
One's
twins
not
was
gonna-
where one egg gets
2 different
fertilized and then it splits.
Yeah, 2 different kinds of twins. So the first one, 2 different eggs get fertilized at the same time. That's called paternal twins, or fraternal twins. No, paternal twins. And then when one egg splits and becomes 2 separate babies, that's maternal twins. And essentially, those are the technical terms. But it's not identical twins is when 2 separate eggs get fertilized, and identical twins is when the egg splits.
Okay.
So that's how it happens. And so identical twins, I think, are a little more common because it's just a fluke
in the family's DNA where their eggs are likely to do that. That's just part of the DNA. And so it travels on the mom's side. That gene for likely to have identical twins travels on the mom's side of the family. And then the fluke one is the paternal twins. That's really just a roll of the dice. It's uncommon for women to have more than one egg that's like fertile and ready to go at a time. And when it happens, I don't think it's like a DNA passable trait. I don't think it's like a thing you're likely to have. It's really a fluke. And so that's why there isn't as many like non-identical.
So that's why
twins.
it's hard to pronounce the name because
What,
you never
what
really
if it
use
traveled?
Yeah, it doesn't happen very much. Paternal just means of the father, and maternal means of the mother. That's all it means.
So wait, let me get this right. So
Does that make sense? That's what the words mean. They don't have to be used of twins. You can use them of anything. So like you could say my paternal grandma.
oh,
That's my grandma on my dad's side. Or my maternal grandmother. That's my grandma on my mom's side. I'm feeling very maternal. I feel like a mother right now.
I bet you do.
But I only said that because almost no one ever says I'm feeling very paternal. But I have said paternity a lot of times. Paternity leave. To leave to go be a father. Or when you get work off because you're actually pregnant yourself, then that's maternity leave. So, anyways, I know
I
that's
know how to
all
make-
off to the side, not even that important,
I
but
know
there
how
you
to
go.
make people poop themselves.
He's doing it again. He's coming up with completely unique and unrelated ideas.
You make them eat protein like the protein shakes. You
Why are you?
lay them.
Why are you even thinking about this
lay
right
them-
now?
You lay them on the floor on their stomach, and then you do like that flop thing, except for you don't actually like flop. You just grab your legs and pull, and then you just go.
Why? Why did your brain even think of that?
I don't know. I was off in a different area when you guys
Yep.
were talking about other stuff.
I bet you do.
Alright, I'll take 3 through 8. Then Rachel told him, "Take my maid, Bilhah, and sleep with her. She will build children for me, and through her I can have a family, too." So Rachel gave her servant Bilhah to Jacob as a wife, and he slept with her. Bilhah became pregnant and presented him with a son. Rachel named him Dan, for she said, "God has vindicated me. He has heard my request and given me a son." Then Bilhah became pregnant again and gave Jacob a second son. Rachel named him Naphtali, for she said, "I have struggled hard with my sister, and I am winning."
How?
What do you mean? That's not your child.
And plus, Leah has 5 and she only has 2.
So Dan means he judged or he vindicated, and Naphtali means my struggle.
How do they know all these names? Like, do they have like?
They're literally making up the name out of their existing words.
Oh, I thought.
So
they were
we talked about it a few weeks ago. It's called a portmanteau.
So like
A portmanteau is when you mash words together. So like if
like mushroom potatoes.
yeah, so like you can actually do that in English, and people can guess what you mean by context. You can make up a brand new
Bagels.
portmanteau, and people will just figure it out.
Bet
Is
you
that-
don't know what this one is.
Yeah, the pizza bagel.
Penguins.
The what?
Penguins.
Fat penguins.
Fat penguins.
Oh,
Yeah.
Dude, that was so.
I'm
easy.
sitting in front of the sign that says fat penguins. It's not that hard to figure
Who
out.
even put that?
Huh?
Who put that?
The owner of the drum kit.
Who's the owner?
It's Caleb. Remember Caleb? He used to be a leader here like a fortnight ago.
When
Is he
Several fortnights ago.
Is he still at this church?
No, he lives in Orville. He hasn't been coming since he stopped serving.
And
When,
how long ago was that?
I have to double check. It was probably a year, maybe a year and a half.
the first time I came here was when I was in 6th grade last year, a while ago, and I think I saw him once.
He has like super red curly hair.
Yeah. I know.
We've not had like a redheaded leader since him, so he's the last redheaded guy leader we had.
So what's happening with that drum set?
I don't know. It's still his property. Like he didn't sell it to us. He didn't donate it to us. He just brought it here because he actually played on the worship team and played drums.
So
He should probably come and get it sometime, but I don't know if he has space. So I've just been leaving it.
they should get rid of that drum set and then get one of the electric drum sets. You don't like the electric drum sets?
That don't sound right.
Well, you gotta put them through the speakers.
Oh, yeah, doy. I mean, otherwise it sounds like you're flapping rubber.
There's an electric drum set downstairs, so it's not being
Doesn't
used.
Children's Ministry use theirs? Or did they stop using theirs and get a regular kit?
What?
Children's Ministry had an electric setup for a long time.
That was
I don't ever go in
Isaac.
there, so I don't know.
Isaac Garst's. He took
We
it
had
back.
one before Isaac Garst's. Was the last one his?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, there was one before that one.
But it was down there for like 3 years.
Yeah. We had one even older than that. It was I think it used to be Ed Stoppers.
But there's one downstairs in the high school room.
See, that's probably the one I was
behind the
thinking
screen.
of. Yeah, that's probably the one I was thinking of. It's just been here forever.
No.
No?
It was in the high school room for like maybe a year.
Okay.
Weston bought it brand new
Oh.
at Guitar Center.
And that's
And
still
then
not the one
right
I'm thinking
here.
of. We had a really old one
Yeah.
for like a long time. Anyways,
But
they just sound synthy. They don't sound like a drum set to me.
But on the one Weston has, it has like 60 different modes, so you can make it sound like a piano or like a vibraphone or something. But you can change the keys, and he made one where literally you can play the intro to God's Not Dead.
So like,
On
does
the
he
drum
have
set.
all the notes and he has to hit them at the right time,
Yeah.
or does he have it just like a pre-recording?
So all the drums
Just
are different notes.
that makes sense.
So you can play different song intros on the drum set if you have enough drums for it.
That makes sense. There's a really cool thing from Microsoft they made for people who have disabilities that affect their hands and fingers and stuff. Where you
uses
can
their face.
well, no, it's got a bunch of 1/4-inch jacks, like a guitar jack, and you can wire in any style of button that you want, like literally
So-
anything.
So like to play
But then
an
it comes up as
instrument,
an
all you gotta
Xbox
do is-
controller. It comes up as an Xbox
oh,
controller.
that's
So whatever has a 1/4-inch jack, you can plug into it, and if you activate it, it's like you press the button. So there's just a jack for the A button.
That's
And
why
there's a jack for
Xbox
the
is
X
better.
button. There's a jack for up on the joystick.
So like you can play like an instrument with an Xbox controller.
No, the other way around.
Instrument.
You can play an Xbox game or any PC game that supports Xbox controllers with an instrument.
So like.
I could
like
take a
every
tuba and be
single-
like,
So like how you
move
know.
But
left.
you would need a separate jack for every button. So like a guitar doesn't work. That would only come up as one button. Anytime you strum, you press the button. It doesn't care which thing you strum.
a flute.
So you would need something like an electric drum kit where you can take every drum head and plug it in separate. And then each cymbal, drum, pedal,
Oh.
they would all come up as a button.
So like you can play Smash Bros. Just.
Yeah. And so people have done it. There's whole YouTube videos of
Yeah, I've seen
people
those.
doing, and sometimes they'll just use like Guitar Hero controller instead, Guitar Hero drum, because it's like pre-done. They don't have to spend all the money and time. But like Dark Souls or Smash Bros. Or any hard game where you have to get the timing just right, and now you have to do it on drums, and you have to remember what button is what button, because
Just
like
get
they don't
those-
say A
get-
on them.
Just
But you'll
pick-
get used to.
Or you can
I
just.
mean,
Eventually, yes.
But
if you
can also
film
paint the word,
before
like, the
you're
letter
used
A.
to it, it's hilarious.
Or you can just put the print out like big sticky
That's
note
what he was
letters
thinking.
and
Yeah.
just smack them on the drums. So then
Oh,
you
man,
hit
it'd be
it.
so
that's
fun.
A.
Some people have done. There's a special limited release controller for Nintendo games that were Donkey Kong themed, and it was a set of bongos. And like they had a Donkey Kong game where you played with a bongo, just 2 bongos. That's all you had was 2 buttons, and so like you can play any. I think it was for Wii. I don't think it was Wii U. I think it was Wii. So like you can technically play any Wii game with the bongos because it doesn't come up as a separate kind of controller. It comes up as the normal controller. It just doesn't work like the normal controller because it doesn't have all the buttons. And so people have taken like the bongo challenge, and you have to like come up with a new game to try and beat on nothing but bongos. It's like you really only have like 2 buttons, like A and B or 1 and 2 or whatever it is, and like that's all you can push. And so you have to find like hacky, glitchy ways to play the game, and all you have are these 2 buttons. That's all you can press.
There's this guy that plays games like, and he's pretty good. I think he plays Fortnite and he streams, and he only has one hand.
Nice.
So he uses his mouth. He like bites the like analog stick, and uses his mouth and his nose to press the buttons.
That's
pretty
crazy.
cool.
And he's good.
Yeah, he's really
That's
good.
insane. There was a company I was reading about years back before Microsoft made their plug-in controller, they were making controllers for veterans who'd lost an arm or a finger
Mhm.
or anything that kept them from playing a game they were used to playing, and they would make custom controllers, and it would be like, I don't know, 20 different models, and it was down to like, I'm missing this finger, I'm missing these two fingers,
So you just
I'm
pull
missing
out that.
this hand, and they would have to come up with, how do I remap all the controls so that if I'm missing these two, what am I missing? Okay, shoulder trigger. So how do I put them somewhere else where they can still work? So they'd put like shoulder trigger. So now you've got like 3 on this side, you've got shoulder trigger, other trigger, and you've got like a low trigger on this side. And so they'd make a controller that was identical except moved placement for those two. And then they would keep doing that for all the instances. Okay, I'm missing this thumb, or I'm missing my entire left hand. And so they have to come up with, okay, now I still have a good hand, so where do I stick everything so I can still reach it and still make the games work? And they would ask you, like, what games do you play? Because sometimes you don't use right stick as much for this game and maybe use it a bunch for the other game. And it's like they'd get your game list, they'd get which digits or hands were you missing, and they would craft you like a custom, here is your controller made for you.
But with the right stick, that's how you look.
Oh,
So
I know,
you
I
probably
get it.
use a
It's like
lot.
insane. Depends on what game you're playing, but like they would come up with instances where like all your triggers were on these ones, and you would get a custom mini joystick for this finger, and the regular joystick for this finger.
That would be hard.
And so you would end up having to like grip controller with this one, and they would have like a wrist strap so you didn't have to hold as tight. And then like you'd have triggers down here, and then you would have one joystick up here, and this would just be your walk joystick. So you would only have to like fling it forward and hold, fling it sideways and hold. It wouldn't have to be like super accurate, and then your accurate one would be this one. And so like it would get insane, yeah, but like you could still walk forward and press the jump button, because walk forward is just this one moving down,
Mhm.
and then like press your jump button, and then you go back to aiming again. So like it wouldn't be the same, but you get to play. But it was kind of a cool little shop, because like they just talk to you as a vet and like figure out, what do you need, what do you want to play, and then like they'd make that, and it'd be yours. This controller is made specifically for you. Like it really won't work for anyone else. So I thought that was pretty cool.
I bet a lot of veterans though probably like shooting games. Actually, no.
Some of them do. It just depends on like what they went through. Some of them are kind of off that from the trauma, but
PTSD.
others, that wasn't their trauma, so that doesn't bother them. Yeah, there's other guys now that are using AI to make hands that work legitimately good. They're like full robot hands, and they're calling it the Luke Skywalker hand, because they had to 3D print a bunch of the parts and then cast them,
Wouldn't that
and
be
it ended up
sweet?
looking like Luke's hand, like when all the skin's off in the newer movies, 7, 8, 9. It looks a lot like that hand now, and the new technology they're using is really cool, because they used to use like electrodes where you actually had to have things like embedded in you to read nerve signals, and now they're using ultrasonic sensors. So there's just little pads that touch your arm, and they ultrasonically sense the fluctuations in your skin and in your muscles under the skin, and they can tell with faster update speeds what you're trying to do. And so like the precision of the hand movements is better. And so like the first guy they did all their tests on is a drummer, and he lost his arm. And now he can literally play with 2 hands, but one of them looks like Luke Skywalker's hand. It's a robot hand.
It's cool.
But they went like a step ahead, and so he has like 2 modes. He can flick the switch, and one is full like do what I tell you to do mode, and the other is like program drum machine mode, and like he can flex certain positions, and that's like a memorized tempo, and so he can do like drum patterns that are beyond human speed.
So like with one hand he can go.
And just have a full roll going non-stop. He doesn't even have to try, and it's like a set tempo, and it'll just do that. And so they took it a step further, and they made him a custom one that's just a stick holder. It doesn't have fingers on it. It has 2 stick holding rings, and it holds 2 sticks. And now, instead of choosing between modes, he has one ring that acts as a response to this motion, and one ring that is the robot. And so he can simultaneously have a running roll, like, and then he can hit beats within that with his fingers.
So pretty much he has 2 hands
He's
on one
cheating.
arm.
on one arm. So basically, on one arm he can hold like the beat of what 4 sticks would take,
Yeah, it's insane.
and then
And
he has
so, like,
one extra.
If you re-angle them, you can set it up so like one's hitting the snare, one's hitting the hi-hat, or they're both on the snare, or they're both on the hi-hat, or whatever. And so like you can get like a roll going on the snare and then play the hi-hat on the same arm with 2 sticks, and then do everything else with these ones.
So that's awesome.
It's really cool. Like, so it's getting to that point where prosthetics are about to become like what we've always dreamed of, like bionic upgrades. They're not gonna be like shooting for only perfection.
Cyborgs.
They're gonna start shooting for above human capacity. And like, that's really cool.
That's cheating though, because about like video games, if
Dude,
you have
you lost your arm. Who's not gonna be happy that you get to cheat a little?
that's cheating. I would not be happy. I'd be like, you're cheating.
What if you were the one cheating?
No, that's not gonna happen.
What if you lost your arm? Wouldn't you want like a little bit of an advantage?
Not really,
No, nothing.
because everyone else would hate me.
That's why you want that advantage, because people are gonna look at you funny anyways. People are gonna be mean. Bullies
So
exist.
I'll pull out my
At least you get to
lasers.
show up the bullies.
Yeah, then
See, that's cheating.
dude, to have a laser eye, I would purposely poke out my eye just so I can have a laser eye in there.
Oh my, just like, oh, you want to talk smack?
All right, guys, let's try to
Wait,
finish this
Daniel.
chapter.
Hold on.
There's some really cool stuff at the end I want to get to with you guys. I love this part at the end. The
Okay.
beginning part is kind of sad, but the ending is really cool.
Some donkeys.
So donkeys. Meanwhile, Leah realized that she wasn't getting pregnant anymore. So this is the first wife that had like the 5 kids.
Mhm.
So she took her servant Zilpah and gave her to Jacob as a wife. Soon Zilpah presented him with a son. Leah named him Gad, for she said, "How fortunate I am." Then Zilpah gave Jacob a second son, and Leah named him Asher, for she said, "What joy is mine, now the other women will celebrate with me." So Gad means good fortune, and Asher means happy. So we've got the same thing repeating. The wife that had no sons gave him her maidservant, and now the wife that already had 5 before gave him her maidservant. So now he's got 4 wives.
But
Wife number 1 is the one he didn't want. She's got 5 kids. Wife number 2 is the one he did want. She's got 0 kids. Wife number 3 is wife number 2's maidservant, and wife number 4 is wife number 1's maidservant. And both maidservants have 2 kids now. So we don't know the exact stretch of time because we don't know how the wives overlap at the end there. We don't know how the maidservants overlap. But we're still talking like 5 to 6 years, maybe even 7 years away from the marriage. And that's kind of the limit. We know some other points in the story happen at the 7-year mark. And so as far as we can tell, if this timeline is exactly in order, we're looking at around 7 years in. He's got 9 sons.
Oof.
From his 4 wives, and the one he really wanted, the wife he really fell in love with first, still has 0 kids. Yeah.
so could they make a custom controller for Michael since he has no brain? Like a no-brainer
Weston, don't
controller?
pick on Michael. That's not cool. It's your turn
That's
to read
coming
anyways.
from your mouth. I just want you to know that. So
Yeah, the evil just came out of you, Weston. Verse 14, Weston, your turn.
14?
Yep.
Are you sure it's not 15?
Pretty sure.
One day during the wheat harvest, Rebecca found some mandrakes growing in the field and brought them to his mother Leah. Rachel begged Leah, but please give me some of your son's mandrakes. But Leah angrily replied, "Wasn't it enough that you stole my husband? Now will you steal my son's mandrakes too?" Rachel answered, "I will let Jacob sleep with you tonight if you give me some of the mandrakes." So that
Oh my gosh.
evening, as
Can we pause for a second? This is the weirdest thing ever, right? So mandrakes, just a totally normal plant with a totally normal fruit, grows over there. But it had like a mythology attached to it. People thought they gave you fertility, that you would be able to have kids. Like even if previously you couldn't, that mandrakes would make you be able to have kids, or at least if like you're not totally superstitious, most people thought it improved your fertility. So it just made you more fertile.
Or you just have a disease.
But let's be real. There are medical conditions that make people fertile and infertile and change how fertile you are. They won't always make you like 100% infertile. And there are vitamins, there are things that make you healthier and will inherently improve your fertility just because you're healthier. However, as far as we know medically, there aren't any fruits out there that you can eat and just like become fertile when you were previously infertile. We've never found that fruit. If we had found that fruit by now, it would be very popular.
Beets.
It would be so popular.
What
So
if
there's
it's
lots of things that make you healthier, and health does make you more fertile. If you're not healthy, you're less fertile. If you're really
watermelon?
healthy, you're more fertile.
Zucchini.
So, you know what? Just be healthy, eat your fruits and veggies, you'll be more fertile. But, yeah, it doesn't matter what it is, even if it's mandrakes. Like, there's nothing that's just going to magically fix your health problems, like total infertility. She's been trying for years. Rachel's been trying to get pregnant for 7 years.
At least.
So that's not a eat a piece of fruit health problem. Okay, 7 years of rolling the dice, you should have a baby by then if your body is capable of having a baby. Like, that's a lot of dice rolls in 7 years. So, she's asking for the mandrakes because of the superstition. Leah is the one who's saying, isn't it enough you stole my husband? Now remember, Leah was the one who slipped in on the wedding night and got married to him as a trick. Leah is the one who stole the husband, essentially. But because she was the one married first, and the marriage was legal, it was binding, she's complaining that Rachel stole. She's complaining that Rachel took her husband, since technically Leah was the first one married. Yeah.
So is Jacob still working for Laban?
Yes. Yes, we're about to
But
get
if
to...
it's been over 7 years since...
No, we're hitting that 7-year mark, but at the midpoint in the story. We're coming up on it right now. You'll see in a second when we get to like verse 25. This is when we hit that 7-year mark.
And Joseph is born.
That's like right at the 7-year mark. So I don't know the exact dates, but like that's the marker. Is right there. There'll be a conversation between Laban and Jacob about normal wages, and that would only happen if the prior 7-year contract was expired. So that's how we know where we are in time. Michael, can you read? Actually, that's a decent chunk. 16 through 21.
Okay. So that evening, as Jacob was coming home from the fields, Leah went out to meet him. You must come and sleep with me tonight, she said. I have paid you for with some mandrakes.
I have paid for you.
Oh, I have paid for you with some mandrakes that my son found. So that night he slept with Leah, and God answered Leah's prayers. She became pregnant again and gave birth to a 5th son for Jacob. She named him as Issachar.
Issachar.
Oh, I miscounted. I kept saying she already had 5 sons. My bad.
Issachar.
Apparently she only had 4. I
Issachar.
totally miscounted. I thought Judah was the 5th, but he's the 4th.
Can we call him Issachar?
Alright.
Issachar! Issachar evolves into...
Pikachu.
Okay, sorry, keep going.
She named
Okay, stop.
She named him Issachar.
Char.
Son.
It means reward.
For she said, God has rewarded me for giving my servant to my husband as a wife. Then Leah became pregnant again and gave birth to a 6th son for Jacob. She named him
Zebulun.
Zebulun. For she said, God has given me a good reward. Now my husband will treat me with respect, for I have given him 6 sons.
Zebulun means honor.
Oh, okay. Later she gave birth to a daughter and named her
It's a
Dinah.
totally normal modern day name. I
Dinah.
don't know why you're messing
Dinah.
that one up. Dinah.
I'd like to eat
There are
a vagina.
people today still born named Dinah. That's a totally normal name.
Diner?
No, I'm not speaking with an accent. It's Dinah.
Diner?
Then God remembered Rachel's plight and answered her prayers by enabling her to have children. She became pregnant and gave birth to a son. God has removed my disgrace, she said, and she named him Joseph. For she said, may the Lord add yet another son to my family. Joseph means, may he add. Okay, so now we've got 11 sons born and 1 daughter.
So 12.
Now maybe there's more daughters, possibly. It's pretty common in Genesis for the daughters to not get mentioned unless they will be part of the story at some point. And since Dinah is the only daughter that ever becomes part of the story, she's the only one that events ever revolve around, she's the only one that gets mentioned. So maybe there was like 20 other daughters. We have no idea. Maybe there was 2 other daughters. We have no idea. Because they don't become part of the story. The events never revolve around them. They just don't bother to mention them. Like we talked about in the past, this is a very male-centric culture. The women are not important in their culture. Everyone disregards the women. The only reason these 4 wives get mentioned is because the story ends up revolving around them for at least a chapter. In several places they'll come up again. So that's it. They are only mentioned for that reason. And that's really sad to think about. There's a lot of women that are part of these people's lives we will never know about, we will never hear about, we will never get to learn their names until we hit heaven and we get to meet some of them. That's it. Like, we're not going to find out in this life because the culture was so twisted.
Well, actually, won't we meet all of them? Because, like...
We don't know every single one that had faith.
Well, all of the ones that went to heaven, because, like...
Yeah.
I mean, heaven's a big place, but
Yeah, I
without,
think
like, all of
with eternity, you'll eventually meet all the ones that went to heaven. I just don't know how many did. I have no clue. So.
And also, like, I mean, I know there's, like, thousands and thousands of years older than us, but won't we, like, look like the same age?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Most of our aging we have nowadays is health problems. There's very little of our aging at the beginning of life that's actual, like, growth. Everything after a certain point is just, like, the slow grip of death starting to make the different systems of your body not work right. Wrinkles happen because certain systems don't work right. Hair changing color and turning gray happens because systems don't work right. Stature declining, like all those things are systems in your body not working right. So most of the things we think of as looking older are just like your body not working right. And so in heaven, your body's going to work perfect. That kind of aging
have wrinkles.
can't really happen.
Wait,
Yeah,
Daniel, do
there's
you have
like this-
wrinkles?
Me?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, not like you would think of like old people wrinkles, but yeah, I've got wrinkles.
There's like
There's just like crease lines that form, you know what I mean, in your
Even
skin
if I, like,
from having smiled the
purposely
same way
try
for
to,
20 something
like,
years.
wrinkle my face, it won't wrinkle. Like, literally, like, it won't wrinkle.
Yeah,
It won't stay.
there's actual chemicals in your skin that keep it elastic
Cause
and stretchy.
healthy.
Yes, but those chemicals don't get produced as much when you get older. That's just how it works. That's why people get Botox injections, is to try and like artificially.
create those chemicals.
Well, it's like a supplement for those chemicals, and it just makes your skin too firm. It like goes overboard, and suddenly you have like hard, taut.
Oh, so kind of like, I'm not saying this to be weird, but you know, like on your big toe, like that skin on like just the side.
Well, no, not like that. Actually, that's different. That's called a callus,
Yeah.
and that's not the presence of a chemical. That's a different amount of skin growth. So like, there's certain layers of your skin, and when one layer gets agitated enough, it will outgrow what it should, and it forms a callus. So it's like too much of the one layer. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So like, if you have top layer, middle layer, bottom layer in the right amount, it forms like a stretchy ribbon because of the different qualities of each layer. But if you get too much top skin, it turns into that tough skin from playing guitar, from kicking a soccer ball, from walking, whatever. Calluses, yeah. Okay, let's read into the next section. I'll take 25, 26. Weston, you got 27, 28. Soon after Rachel had given birth to Joseph, Jacob said to Laban, "Please release me, so I can go home to my own country. Let me take my wives and children, for I have earned them by serving you, and let me be on my way. You certainly know how hard I have worked for you."
Where?
27 and 28.
Oh. Please listen to me, Laban replied. I have become wealthy, for the Lord has blessed me because of you. Tell me how much I owe you. Whatever it is, I'll pay it. $1 bajillion.
So, quite simply, Laban doesn't want him to leave. Jacob wants to leave. Laban says, "Name your price." Jacob goes,
Nah.
"I'll stay." As soon as Laban says, "Name your price," Jacob's all about staying. Michael, you have 29 through 30.
Okay.
Hey, Sonia. You're early. How's it going? You can hang out if you want. You don't have to stay in the shadows.
Let me read.
This isn't like a different church service.
I know.
In essence, just in time. Go for it, Michael.
Okay. Jacob replied, "You know how hard I've worked for you, and your flocks and herds have grown under my care. You had little,
Yeah, you had little indeed.
okay, well, I went to, you had little grown, so, like,
Oh yeah, that's not right.
because it was, like,
That's a loop.
you had little indeed before I came, but your wealth was increased enormously. The Lord has blessed you through everything I've done. But now, what about me? When can I start providing for my own family?" Oh,
What wages do
what
you
wages
want?
do you want? Laban asked again.
Oh, sorry, that wasn't actually yours. I was going to read that.
Oh.
But thank you. Jacob replied, "Don't give me anything. Just do this one thing." You know he's being clever when he says this. "And I'll continue to tend and watch over your flocks. Let me inspect your flocks today and remove all the sheep and goats that are speckled or spotted, along with all the black sheep. Give these to me as my wages. In the future, when you check on the animals you have given me as my wages, you'll see that I have been honest. If you find in my flock any goats without speckles or spots, or any sheep that are not black, you will know that I have stolen them from you."
Go.
Weston, you got 34 through 36.
All right, Laban replied, "It will be as you say." But that very day Laban went out and removed the male goats that were streaked and spotted, all the female goats that were speckled and spotted, or had white patches, and all the black sheep. He placed them in the care of his own sons, who took them a 3 days journey for where Jacob was.
From where Jacob
From where Jacob was. Meanwhile, Jacob stayed and cared for the rest of Laban's flock. Then Jacob took some fresh branches from poplar, almond, and plane trees and peeled off strips of bark, making white streaks on them. Then he placed these peeled branches in the watering trough where the flocks came to drink, for that was where they mated. And when they mated in front of the white streaked branches, they gave birth to young that were streaked, speckled, and spotted. Jacob separated those lambs from Laban's flock, and at mating time he turned the flock to face Laban's animals that were streaked or black. This is how he built his own flock instead of increasing Laban's.
Whenever the stronger... Oh, sorry, that's Michael. 41 through 43.
Okay. Whenever the stronger females were ready to mate, Jacob would place the peeled branches in the watering troughs in front of them. Then they would mate in front of the branches. But he didn't do this with the weaker ones, so the weaker lambs belonged to Laban, and the stronger ones were Jacob's. As a result, Jacob became very wealthy with large flocks of sheep and goats, female and male servants, and many camels and donkeys.
Okay. So this reads variously as... Don't.
I just did.
End of a service is not when you decide to shut your Bible. That's not how it works.
I'm so
You may still need it. We're going to talk about it. This reads variously as like voodoo or incoherency. There's so many different ways to translate this, and there's so many translators, hey Jose, that I don't think really understood what was going on, that the translation often comes out kind of confused, if not confusing. And so I looked into the science of this because it's always confused me as a chapter. It's never been like a really clear, understandable chapter. And I've looked up what other people have taught on it even. And I've never really been satisfied. I've never really enjoyed what they've explained as far as like why this worked. I've heard a lot of people say, you know, God told them what to do, therefore it worked. Like, what did he tell him to do exactly? They can't even explain what's being said here on the page. So let's go through it step by step. First, he says to Laban, here's my fee. You give me the streaked and spotted goats, you give me the black sheep. That's my pay. I keep the animals you don't want. Now we know historically from this part of the world that sheep in their culture were predominantly white and their goats were predominantly solid colored. That they didn't have a lot of streaked and spotted goats. They didn't have a lot of black sheep. Those were essentially genetic mutations in their herds. Because their DNA was so strongly bent towards the solid colored
White.
goats and the white sheep, that was the norm. So when a sheep was born black or when a goat was born with, spots or streaks, it was a mutation. So there wasn't going to be a lot of those in the first place. And so as soon as Laban hears the terms, first thing he does is tell his sons, get all of them out of the flock. If you take the ones with the genetic mutations out of the flock, then they can't interbreed and pass on the mutation. That's what Laban's thinking. If I take out of the gene pool all the ones that can, birth a sheep that will have these traits, then Jacob gets nothing. His pay is 0. Jacob, however, is such a good herdsman, he's already seen 2 moves down the chessboard. He knows Laban has control over the flock and he can separate it however he feels like. He knows it's Laban's flock. So he knows that Laban is probably going to pull some sly move like pulling all the striped spots and black sheep out of the gene pool. And so Jacob already has a plan beyond that step. He already knows what to do. He's been a shepherd his whole life and he knows that the genes for stripes and spots in a goat, the genes for black sheep, are not only carried by the striped and spotted goats and by the black sheep. They're carried as a recessive gene in a bunch of the goats and sheep. Tons of them have the striped spot black sheep genes recessively. What that means is they won't give birth to a sheep with those traits visibly on the outside unless they mate with another sheep that has those recessive genes. So you get 2 of them with the recessive gene, meaning they look normal, and when they breed, they will always produce the sheep with that gene as a dominant gene. So you can pick out which pure white goats, pure black goats, pure white sheep have the recessive gene by seeing which ones randomly give birth to the striped and spotted, to the black sheep. And if you memorize which ones are which, then you know which ones you want to mate. And now you can have a flock of all white sheep giving birth to all black sheep by keeping certain ones from mating and by forcing other ones into a mating circumstance. And you can steer the flock that way. How he does it is really simple though. Instead of just making sure that, only his sheep were born, only his goats were born, he made sure that only the healthy ones would be his and only the weak ones would be Laban's. And that's where the sticks come in. So the sticks seem, like I said, it seems a little bit like voodoo, but actually there's a ton of science behind it, and we didn't know about this for thousands of years. I love that Jacob knew about it back then, and we completely forgot about it, and now we are rediscovering it in modern studies on herds. So it turns out the 3 trees mentioned are actually medicinal for herds animals. Cattle, sheep, goats, all those things that can actually manage to chew up wood or drink water with that wood soaked in it, they actually get the medicinal benefits. The first one mentioned is poplar, and its medicinal benefits are insane. It makes no sense that no one knew about this for thousands of years. So it turns out people in a lot of different cultures kept doing this traditionally. They just made it a tradition. They didn't know why they were doing it. They didn't know the science behind it. They just knew it worked. And so you take poplar or even willow. Willow works just as good apparently. And you feed it to the sheep or you dissolve it in their water. And the proteins and the carbohydrates that get down into the water are so good for the sheep that in their control groups, they were getting anywhere from 20% in lambing rise, meaning the number of lambs you get from that size herd is 20% greater. So that's due to a combination of factors. So better conception rates. So in one group, they actually got the conception rate to go from 92.9%, so 92% of the time they breed, there is a baby, the ewe actually gets pregnant, to 100%. Just by feeding them poplar, they got a 100% conception rate. That's pretty nuts. And then on top of that, they got higher rates of multiple births. So you were actually able to feed them tree branches and get higher rates of twins and triplets and whatever. I don't know if they got to quadruplets. Higher rates of multiple births. And that just comes down to a healthier ewe produces more goats, or more sheep, more lambs. So by feeding them this diet of poplar or willow, you get faster births too. That's the other weird one. Like they go from getting pregnant to giving birth to being able to be pregnant again quicker, up to 4 days quicker. So you can make a faster turnaround on your flock, have more babies more often, have healthier babies, and have more twins, so you can actually like double the output of babies just by feeding them branches. So like it seems like voodoo the way they talk about it. It seems like weird magic.
Branches.
But like it's actually just health and nutrition. So that's crazy. And that's just one of the 3 trees. The other one was almond. This one has a bunch of different things that can help cure in the urinary tract. It helps cure like stones in the bladder, stones in the kidney, all kinds of bad things in the reproductive system. People have been using this for thousands of years. They still use it. And then the other one was the plane tree. We don't have those over here. It's not a native to this continent. So we're not familiar with the plane tree, but they have it over there. And it has a bunch of anti-inflammatory and gastrointestinal benefits. Anti-inflammatory is like what ibuprofen does. It's like what aspirin does.
So is that how they make ibuprofen?
No, we make it out of other stuff. But like for the animals, you don't want to give them medicine, especially thousands of years ago before they invented medicine. You give them this, and it does the same thing as medicine. That's crazy.
So that was their medicine.
Yeah, that was it. They didn't have the processes that we have. So typically we make medicine for one reason. We don't want to guess out of the thousands of tiny compounds in this tree which one is the good one and which ones might have odd side effects. We want to extract out the one compound that has the one good side effect so that we have less bad side effects to keep track of. So like that's why I think it's bad that we legalize pot, and I think it's good that we're doing research on pot. Because if there is one compound in there that's actually healthy for us, great, fantastic, I'd love to find out about it. But you should not pour 1,000 compounds into your body in the hopes that one of them is good for you. That's a terrible idea. That's reckless. So yeah, do research on it. Do scientific lab studies. Extract every little compound and figure out which one does what. Great. Do not just start consuming smoked plant. That is a terrible idea. I don't care which plant it is. There are so many compounds in a plant. Guessing that maybe one of them will be good is really bad math. Because if one of them by random chance is good for you, then it's probably a guarantee that out of the thousands of other compounds, at least one of them, if not many of them, are actually bad for you. And that has actually been the case historically with most plants. So like, it's worth figuring out which ones are actually good for you. But anyways, so this is kind of cool. I just love it that he was using science before he even understood the science behind it. He just knew from experience these plants had these good effects. He knew from experience that you could breed a white sheep with a white sheep, and if it has a black sheep, then chances are if you breed those same 2 sheep again, it'll have a black sheep again. And by memorizing which ones the random babies came out in certain colors, he was able to then predict, by pairing up the same sheep again, they would have that color sheep again. And since his pay was based on the color of the sheep, he was able to give this diet of sticks to only certain sheep and make them the healthiest sheep in the flock. And then when they had their babies, the health of the mother produces the health of the baby. That's pretty much how it works. If you have a really healthy mom, you end up with a healthier baby. So he was able to increase the health of white sheep, of solid color goats that were going to produce every time striped goats, spotted goats, black sheep. And those would become his flock. That was his pay. And so over time, Laban's flock stayed basically the same size, stayed normal. Some of the goats were healthy because he was making sure they were healthy. Some of the goats were not as healthy because he wasn't trying that hard on those goats. And Laban's flock just stayed the same. Not much growth. All the while, his flock is just growing and growing and growing and growing. And there is even some verbiage in here that suggests maybe when the flock that Laban separated out and kept separate from Jacob, that initial batch of black sheep, striped and spotted goats was separated out, there's some verbiage in here that suggests maybe he got them to mate with the solid color flock when they're at the watering hole, to mix back in some of those recessive genes as they would naturally get weeded out. And so he's just being really clever. He gets animals. He gets husbandry. He knows what he's doing. And as a consequence, he's able to grow his flock and not grow Laban's. And all the while, he's keeping his bargain. There was no rules about how he bred the sheep and the goats. All he was asked to do was keep the flock. And technically, the flock didn't shrink. He kept the flock. He was able to produce a flock on the side out of this flock without shrinking this flock. And that's impressive. Most shepherds couldn't do that. Most shepherds could not keep a flock the exact same size and create an even better flock on the side at the same time. But he pulled it off. His sons watched the Jacob flock, and he watched Laban's flock.
The jock in the lock.
I love your brain, Michael. You gotta become like a songwriter or something. Find some good outlet for this random brain you have.
Hey, you do the lyrics, I'll do the music.
Boom. They will be internet sensations, I can tell already. Okay, so what we've got here is we've got two sides to Jacob's life. At home, huge mistakes turn into big problems. At home, he's got 4 wives fighting over him, and it's turning into a community of brothers that are all jealous of each other, a community of wives that are all jealous of each other. At work, he is using his boss.
Just the thing is, though, it's like, oh, I don't like you anymore, wife, but guess what? I have 3 other choices, so bye.
It's really hard to win an argument when your husband can walk out the door to his other wife who isn't arguing with him that day.
So
Like, he has no motivation to make up with you. He has no motivation to, like, be nice to you. And so this produces an ecosystem where the wives are constantly sucking it up, constantly doing whatever they have to do, and it really demeans them and it lowers them, and that has consequences down the road. They can only live like that so long before there's consequences. And so you saw it, they literally are trading in the background to get his attention. They're able to, like, pay each other to buy his time. And that's weird. No thing should ever happen like that thing. That is just too strange.
This child asked her dad, how much money he gets paid an hour, like, cause he was working at home for like a long time and he worked all day.
Sure.
And didn't spend time with his family or anything, and other than like eating.
Yeah.
But and she asked how much he gets paid an hour, and he said $20. And she went to her piggy bank and got $20 and gave it to him and was like, all right, let's play.
Ooh, that's gotta hurt.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's when you're not doing it a good dad.
Wait, what'd she say?
She paid her dad his hourly wage so she could have an hour of his time, because she wasn't getting enough time with her dad. That really should speak to you as a dad. Like, you need to spend some time with your kids, with your family. Okay, so at work, he's using his boss. At home, he's allowing his wives to fight over him. Do you guys think this is going to backfire at any point in the future?
Eventually.
How long do you think you can be at work making more money than your boss before he does something about it?
2 days. What the heck?
What?
Did you just say 2 days?
I said 2 months.
Oh, I was like.
Because you said 2 days, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Most paychecks don't get cut every day or 2 days, you know what I mean? It's like, you wouldn't actually make any money in 2 days in most jobs nowadays. But, like, I don't think this can go on very long. And so, interestingly, it doesn't go on very long at all in their terms. But it does go on longer than you might think. It goes on for over a year. But we'll see the end of it next week. Okay. This is what we were talking about in the last 2 chapters, just repeated over again. When you diss family, when you scorn family, when you burn family, it will have consequences you're not going to like. And so it is worth it, even to people who don't have a natural affection for their family, to practically look at their family as a resource. It's the people that care about you. It's the people that will do things for you. If you have no natural love in you, you should still be guarding your family, protecting your family, being loving towards your family. Take it as the best investment you can make in this life. And on top of that, it is something that God calls us to. It's something that he asks us to do. Whether we're the kid in the family, whether one day we're the man of the house, or we're the woman of the house, whatever the case is, when you're in that position in the family, God calls you to that position. It's not by random chance. Like, you guys know, you don't get to pick your family as a kid, but God did. He put you there.
Ooh.
So whatever your family structure looks like, I know for some of us, we're with like our mom and dad and they're on marriage 1, and you know, nothing has gone horrendously wrong, and that's great. Others, we're on like marriage 2 or 3, or we don't even live with mom and dad, we live with like grandma and grandpa, or uncle and aunt, or foster parents. Like, there's so many different family structures, but you gotta remember that God has stuck you there. He has put you there. And there will become a reason apparent someday, and no one gets to tell you how long it is. I'm sorry to say, like, the reason you're stuck with the family you're stuck with is not something you get to find out on any specific date. It's not gonna be like the day you're married, you'll know why you grew up with that family. It's not like when you finally have kids, you'll get why you grew up in that family. Like, you may take years and years and years, decades before you realize, oh, that's why. That's why God stuck me with these weirdos. But at some point, it's gonna become apparent, and God does have a plan. There is a reason for it. And all the pain that you experience in family, and all the blessings you experience in family, they're all for a reason. And that's kind of hard to stick to and remember when the pain's occurring. So just be reminded today that whatever pain you have in your family, whatever blessings you have in your family, it's part of God's plan. And even this, as Jacob makes mistakes, as Jacob uses his family, as Jacob gets ahead at the expense of others, he is setting himself up for lessons that he's going to learn the hard way.
Oof.
And at this point,
Death.
he still hasn't learned them. He's still clever as all get out and thinks he can get away with anything.
So far, he is getting away with everything.
And so he thinks he's right. Because he is getting away with it. But just because you're getting away with something now does not mean you will ultimately get away with it.
That's why you gotta quit when you're ahead.
I don't think Jacob's learned that lesson yet at all.
Get $100,000, quit.
So he's gonna learn, but it's not this day. It's not this day. So hopefully you guys learn quicker than he does. I love your shirt, by
So
So
what you're
good.
saying is after we get our first paycheck, we should just quit.
It was red and it had
Nailed it,
white
Weston.
on it.
Yeah!
the way. Totally nailed it. Well done, sir. Well done. All right, let's pray. Lord, we thank you for your word. We thank you for the family that you've stuck us in. Help us to be thankful for it. Help us to be grateful. Help us to trust that you have us here for a reason, and that our family is not just random happenstance. Help us to cherish our family when we receive those blessings, Lord, and help us to be patient with our family when it hurts. Help us, Lord, to be the family that our other family members need. Help us to be the loving one, to be the compassionate one, to be the serving one, to be the forgiving one. Help us to be the strength in our family. And help us, Lord, to realize when we're acting like Jacob and we're kind of using our family. Lord, may we wake up quicker than Jacob and not have to bear such difficult consequences. We love you, Lord. We just ask that you would change our hearts and you would grow us in that role you've placed us in, whatever role we're in right now. Thank you, Lord, for where you have us. Use us as light this week. Protect us from all the different illnesses that are going around right now, not just the ones that are in the news. Help us, Lord, to share love with people in these times ahead where things are going to get more and more complicated. We love you, Jesus. We pray all this in your name. Amen.
Amen.
All right, on, guys. I love you. Have a great Sunday. Stay healthy. Wash your hands. And remember, no shaking hands. Elbow bumps.
Boom.
Or you do like the Chinese thing where you're just like,
Yes, I saw a terrific meme. It says, don't shake hands. Do karate.
Michael, you still
I love it.
No, Michael.
No.
These are making.
Phone bucket.
Oh, okay. Are you like the only one?
Can I do it?
In this one particular case, yes, you can.
oh,
Whoa!
No way, you won!
Oh my gosh!
Who knew?
Oh my gosh, guys!
Oh man,
I won it all!
I just cracked my screen.
King of the world! Did you really?
No.
No way.
These
I would
chairs
sue you.
Were they not with their pairs?
are not. Like, do you see?
Oh!
You're fixing them all, so like,
Hey.
no, I'm not seeing.
Look at that one and that one. They're so far apart. You can't.
Hey,
No.
Daniel.
You can't know.
They can't be that far apart. That's illegal.
That is illegal?
Yes, sir. It's illegal.
That's hilarious. Well, thank you for following the sign. I appreciate it.
I will literally go
So you should have been here when I told them how you can make someone poop themselves.
What?
You know what? If your hands are washed, I don't.
Then this one.
Thank you for washing your hands.
Hi, Ayla.
Hello, welcome.
Wait, did we get my chairs?
No. That's so weird.
Ooh. No, get in there. Oh, we actually have all of the balls.
Yeah.
So good open models like that.
Since when?
Weird.
I don't know. Since today, apparently.
Since never. Wow, Ayla.
What did I do?
I was trying to bottle flip.
Oh, okay.
Not a ball flip.
Oh, Daniel,
Yeah, bottle flip word.
Yes, sir.
you owe me a Coke.
Oh, I see.
Hey, does anyone have
Actually,
like
make
donations
that-
for money to me?
Oh, me too.
Floor?
Me too.
You guys are poor. I
Yes.
have literally 50 cents.
I don't even have
Well, I don't even have 1 cent.
I don't even have that.
I suck at this game.
Just so you know, I'm homeless. These aren't even my clothes.
I make money off of TikTok.
It's closer than.
You make money on TikTok. I tried that already.
No.
It didn't
I
work.
make
I only got
money.
30.
A verse in the announcements last night. Did you hear it?
What?
I got
We got a new rep. That's
I
cool.
don't know what the thing. It has in it.
I
think
like
it's
this.
Psalms or Proverbs or something. It
Feels like my
has
What
bathroom
time
some
is it?
line in the verse.
Oh,
I don't know.
It's 10:43.
It means innocence, but it says the man with clean hands.
Hey, wait. Hey, you.
Okay,
you guys
the
make money?
white people.
No,
Like
I
that's
just
basically
told
what
you
it
I
says.
have no
And
sense.
like it means innocent, clean hands. I have no, disease. I have no sin.
Unbelievable.
I don't want to be the only true guy.
Listen,
What?
you say it's both fruit and vegetable. Does that make ketchup a smoothie?
Ooh.
It's a vegetable smoothie.
Those are both good. Oh, that lady has coronavirus.
It actually does.
No, actually.
No.
Okay, we'll put it up
Hey,
here.
Daniel. It's just.
Ah, I missed.
Good job.
Also, you made the biggest thud on the floor you possibly could.
Yeah.
Those poor babies.
I like kind of like the sign saying, feeling sick, you should probably go home and get some rest. You know, if I make the
Maybe
signs
I should go home and get some rest then.
If I hear one person cough, Greta, go away, go home, now. Don't come back.
He starts just like pissing out them like a vampire.
Yes. Those NBA people at school.
We don't want you here if you start
No.
coughing.
I get a hose.
Get away. Just a water hose.
You get a spray bottle with like rubbing alcohol in it.
No, like one of my brothers was in my room, I used my computer.
Yes.
I'll use all my cats.
I was at CVS the other day and someone comes in and says, "Do you guys have rubbing alcohol? Like just like a 20-ounce bottle of rubbing alcohol for like some cookies?" And he says, "No, I don't think we have any stock." I said, "I checked on the website. It says you have like a lot in stock." And he's like, "I don't know what the website says, but we sold out of those days ago."
Who designed these?
Me.
You designed
I am
them?
the sign master.
Really?
Yes, they're all
If you're
mine.
feeling sick,
All of
get
them?
away.
Even the ones downstairs?
Even ones downstairs.
That one?
If I make a sign, I'll be like, feeling sick and get away.
That one.
Yeah, this one's in the north bathroom, so to speak. I'm gonna do a slightly different one, but people side of the door
I know.
as you go near the sinks and two on the mirror. The two on the mirror are different. They say scrub for 20 seconds.
Yeah.
What is the difference between that?
Oh,
They're basically saying if you have
the
coronavirus.
boys one says only you can stop the zombie apocalypse. The girls one says only you can stop this spread of disease. Because not as many women think zombies are funny. But I did it on both up here because I figured my middle school would also be funny.
Who wants to play pool?
Nobody.
I'll play against
Did
myself.
you wipe down the queue?
Yes.
Nobody likes it.
My mom wants to run my stuff up and
I'll
we're going to store to get milk and that's it.
Y'all want
Yeah.
Y'all want toilet paper?
And then he invites neighbors over. And then we go to the movies.
Teacher food.
And I'm in my room under my bed. I'm locking my door, playing my game.
Don't come in here. Don't.
I can't catch it from you. You don't see me.
Maybe it's better.
They've canceled every event except the school itself.
It really makes life a lot of fun, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, like my school is thinking about transferring to like online stuff and then going home and doing
Can't
it.
blame them.
I mean, I honestly do not want to do online work for like.
My
like,
concern
computer
is some
and
people have
everything.
caught corona and then it's gone a week to 2 weeks before they've had any symptoms.
Mhm.
They were carrying for like a week to 2 weeks. When I hear that, I don't know if it's true.
Asymptomatic.
If it's true, that basically means we can't fight this the way we're thinking. We're thinking like only go out to certain things, only go out like small gatherings, right? Don't go to big gatherings. But truthfully, if it can be under the skin, so to speak, and like transmittable but not seen for 2 weeks, you would have to send everyone home for 2 weeks and not let them leave to like fight this. Just coming out of your house every once in a great while doesn't change. Doesn't change it at all. It's like honestly, if we're all gonna get it and we're all gonna survive and like some people's lung problems die, we should hurry up and just all get it.
The only people that are dying right now is the people like vegan people.
And lung problems.
Yeah, I
If
know.
you smoked a bunch in your past, you
And
have a real risk.
Bye.
You have a real problem ahead of you.
My mom said that it's not good for any of us to come.
Oh, of course. Then it's more spreadable.
No. Like in our family.
Um,
Because most of us have and
Yes,
asthma.
oh.